In early 1982, things were happening in my hometown of Plymouth, UK, that I could hardly believe. Returning to my car one day, I heard on the radio something about some Argentine scrap merchants putting a flag on some god-forsaken island somewhere. Later, the radio told me that we, the UK, would be sending a task force to free the islands from the invading Argentine forces. Sitting in a Plymouth restaurant, I heard the sound of Royal Marines leaping around the city, crawling over cars. They were high. They were hyped up. They had to be. They were going to do it. The unimaginable Britain PLC was going to war. That night in Plymouth, the air was electric, as hundreds of young men were going to get the chance, if diplomacy failed, to practice the skills of war which the past few generations of UK military had been trained in, but thankfully never asked to use. The ships and men then left, not amid a glare of publicity as at Portsmouth, but silently. Quietly they slid seaward past Western King Point, accompanied not by a band, but of the sobbing of many a woman and a few men. Children just gazed. Service families well accustomed to tearful separations could not help but show in action and thought that this goodbye was different to all the others. To some it would be adieu and not au revoir. Plymouth shops went task force crazy, stocking up with books on sea harriers and exocets, as well as quite a few publications telling us just where the Falkland Islands were. The windows of model shops were heavy with matchbox plastic replicas of sea harriers, and model magazines devoted large features to the new low visibility paint schemes of the harriers. We all crossed our fingers, and the nation held its breath. Then victory. Relief for some, tragic loss and grief for others. Many families in both Britain and Argentina wept over these wild islands. The victory parade in Plymouth, and the ships came home. Widows and fatherless children on two continents, thousands of miles apart, grieved amid a sea of jubilation in the UK, and amid a tide of bewilderment in Argentina. Travelling to Portsmouth to see the task force flagship HMS Hermes return, I was totally overcome to see and feel the effects of humanity in excelsis, as the Hermes steamed past thousands upon thousands of well-wishers who crammed every square inch of Pompey's waterfront. Balloons, flags, flares, fireworks, and the screams were players among the panoply of helicopters, planes, seagulls, waves, children's cries and tears, orchestrated together by the beat of Hermes' engines. Onlookers at one stage entered the water in a seeming effort to get closer to commune with, the Hermes, the rusty old ship that was a focal point for countless thousands of pairs of eyes. Almost a seaside christening with the wake of Hermes as the holy water. Returning to my home in Plymouth, I went down to Western King Point to see the ships come. I counted them all out, but sadly I was not able to count them all back. HMS Ardent and HMS Antelope rest on the sea bottom. Their graveyard is shared with their enemy, the Argentine ship Belgrano. Enemies when alive, separated by wildly differing political views, but united in death in the same watery grave. Seeing the ships come back home amid all the flag waving and lovers' tears of joy, I often thought to myself, what must it be like to be loved that much? Steve Johnson, Cyber Heritage.